Great.
And I finally found the PowerPoint. If you want me to share some images.
Yes, absolutely. That'd be fantastic. Okay, let's see here. Well, good deal. Well, welcome everybody.
And I finally found the PowerPoint. If
Oh, I'm getting some feedback.
you want
One
me to share
second.
some images.
Yes, absolutely. That'd be fantastic. All right, here we go. Well, welcome everybody to the 5th edition of our SoFa Speaker Series with Lavett Ballard. Lavett Ballard is an artist, art historian, curator, and author. She holds a dual bachelor's in studio art and art history with a minor in museum studies from Rutgers University. She also has an MFA in studio art from the University of the Arts in Philadelphia. Ballard's art has been commissioned as a cover for Time Magazine's special Woman of the Year double edition release, March 2020. Among her accolades, she is a Yaddo Artist Residency recipient for 2020, been nominated for a Pew Foundation residency, and named by Black Art in America as one of the top 10 female emerging artists to collect. Ballard's work has been in film productions and exhibited at galleries and museums nationwide. Ballard's work has been acquired by prominent collections such as the African American Museum of Philadelphia, the Colored Girls Museum, the Grant Hill and Petrucci Family Foundation Collection, the Syracuse University Community Folk Art Center, and the Jewel Collins Smith Fine Art Museum at Auburn University Collections. Thank you so much for joining us, Lavett. I'm going to let
Thank
you
you
take it
for
away.
having me invited in. I love always talking to students. It's great. I remember that time when I was doing the same. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. So, let's see. How do we want to do this best? First of all, I want to just apologize. My allergies always. I was just explaining to Darby. I'm in New Jersey, and it decided to get warm, and the pollen is just starting. So my allergies have been like lately. So I took a pill, but you know those doggone things never work when you want them to. So, uh, would you like to see kind of where I came from to where I got to, or do you want to just ask questions? You guys tell me.
That would be amazing if you could give us just like a little rundown of your career thus
Okay.
far. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, great. So let me just bring this up. So, if you're an artist, you understand being an artist is the struggle's real. You know, as anytime someone mentions I'm an artist, there's usually a bunch of things that come through people's minds as far as what you are as an artist. Uh, some people think, oh, you just lapse around your day, you don't really do anything. And then my mother at one point thought I was crazy. She was like, you're not going to make any money. You don't, you know, why can't you just teach? Um, Society thinks that you don't do anything, just like most of your friends. Uh, but when you get to a certain level, your buyers think you're just pretty much an ATM for them. And in reality, most of the time, you think you're just making profound work. You're saying what you have to say. You're going out there and doing your thing. In reality, once you become a full-time working artist, you realize most of your time is actually just getting your name out there and doing paperwork, which kind of sucks. But you take the bitter with the sweet. My first inspiration to be an artist was when I was younger. My mother took me to the Newark Museum here in New Jersey, and I got to see Elizabeth Catlett's work up close. And she was the first artist when I went to a museum that actually had next to her name on the tag, African American artist. And I was like, whoa, you can be an artist and be you can be a black artist and be in a museum. Oh my god! Because all the museums she had taken me to in the past, there may have been black artists there being shown, but I wouldn't have known because they didn't put it on the actual tag. So after that, that was kind of a pivotal moment for me where I'm like, wait a minute, I really like what this artist is saying. I love her idea of narrative, her idea of social consciousness, and I want to do the same thing. When I started with undergrad, this is pretty much the work I was doing. It was very illustrative. It was using, my father had died my last year in undergrad, um, and he left this huge record collection. So I took a lot of his records and turned them into art because I couldn't do anything with them. A lot of them were damaged. He had had a flood or something in his apartment, and they had mold and it was scratched. And it broke my heart to, you know, break apart a Michael Jackson and a OJ's, but it was necessary evil. Uh, and I developed this whole body of work with the idea of music and old music media as the inspiration for the work. And it worked really well for me in the beginning. I was selling quite a few of these pieces. Uh, they mostly were vinyl record albums, CDs, audio tape. I even used QR codes where I was digitally downloading music videos and turning them into really cool codes to show some type of graphic element and allow people to interact with the work. Uh, and I also started moving into more ceramics. I really love sculpture. And the thing that that taught me was that I really like texture. The For my thesis work, I did this body of work, and this was right after I was still investigating the records thing. And this body of work kind of came about by accident. My neighbor had, during a snowstorm that winter, their fence got damaged. And I literally was looking for a new type of substrate that wasn't as costly as canvas. You know, we buy canvas, but then I hate stretching canvases. I can't stand it. So I wanted to find something else to be able to do the same type of thing. And this was a great substrate to me. And I didn't realize at the time that the wood was kind of calling to me. It was this idea of Black women being objectified, the stereotypes aligned with their names, and applying them to the wood. And at this time, I really was pushing the idea of me being a painter. That was most important to me. I really was like, I'm going to be a great painter. And I was looking at people like Kehinde Wiley and Carrie James Marshall. And these were the painters that really were the ones who I was looking at for my personal inspiration. Uh, I went to grad school, and that blew my mind because while I lived very close to Philadelphia. I'm only 20 minutes from Philadelphia. And I started to get notoriety. I was painting a lot of portraits of famous local urban poets. And I would go to like open mic nights, and like you see on the movies, those people that paint live, that's what I was doing. But I was painting the actual poets. And I got to meet a lot of like really well-known artists who were just in the audience, who would reach out to me and kind of become my mentors. And they introduced me to all these other artists that I didn't learn about in undergrad. And then when I went to grad, they introduced me to even more artists. And people like Chikai Booker and Leonardo Drew and Lena Victor and Deaster Gaze, Carol Walker, who I already knew. But and Wigichu Mutu in particular was a big inspiration to me, mainly because I love the fact that she was using collage. And collage was a medium I was familiar with from high school, but I didn't know if I wanted to go back to it. But I loved how she was able to build these kind of fantasy narratives with the collage and also apply paint to it. So uh, I pushed and pushed, and I had a lot of pushback in grad school the first year. I went to an unconventional grad school program. I was in a low res program, mainly because I needed to work. So my low res program, the way it worked was every summer for 3 years, I was literally in a grad school bubble uh, from June until the second week in August. And the first year I got there, the first summer I got there, uh, the faculty we had a visiting artist. Her name was Allison Hamilton, and Allison Hamilton was this great figurative artist. I loved her work, and she did a studio visit, and it got back to me that she had equated my paintings on the fences to bad album covers. Yeah, killed me. It was like a stake to the heart. And so at that point, I was like, oh, F you. I am not going to take this. So I said, okay, you don't like my paintings? Okay, I won't paint anymore. So I went to go get my hair done that weekend at a beauty supply store. I was getting some hair because I was going to do this style of weave called a crochet. And I was getting the hair, and something about if you've ever been into a black beauty salon hair supply store, you see all this hair just on one wall usually that you get to pick from. And it was something beautiful to me about the textures and the different types of hair. So I literally bought as much as I could get for about $50 and brought it home, went to Michael's and bought a crochet weave and started weaving hair onto the crochet loom. And I brought it to school that following Monday, and it blew my teachers' minds. They were like, what is this? Where were you holding this back from? They've been struggling with you with your paintings for 2 weeks, and then you bring us this? And I was like, oh, it's just something I just do together over the weekend. It's nothing. And they loved it, and I liked it, but I didn't love it yet. I like the idea of the texture. I like the idea of the routine of it, just kind of weaving. And if you've ever crocheted a little rug, it's very um, relaxing, the idea of the process, just going through it. And I like the idea of coming up with a theme to go with what I was making. I was almost making unconsciously, but not knowing why I was making. I just knew that something about the ethnicity of the hair texture, the idea of the tendrils really spoke to me. So I worked on that idea of hair for 2 summers straight. And I kind of gained a lot of momentum from the school and a lot of praise for it. But I still felt I was a painter. I wanted to go back to color, these very neutral color palette that I could only bring in with the hair unless I brought in artificial colors was not speaking to me enough. And so I ended up meeting at a art exhibit in Philadelphia at I think it was either PAFA. No, it was at the African American Museum. I met this phenomenal artist that was introduced to me by the name of Diane Smith. And she works with paper bags and sculpture. And she's also an abstract artist. And she said, well, I see what you're doing. You kind of have this David Hammons thing going on, Sonia Clark. And she's like, I know both of them personally. They're great artists, they're great friends. But is this you? Is this the stories you want to tell? And I said, no. And I started telling her the stories of that my grandmother told me, that my mother told me about our family history. And she said, well, it seems to me all these white teachers that have been working with you, which they're great, they're pushing you to the same thing and you're not listening to what they're pushing you to. And I said, really? Because she's black. And I'm like, you're telling me that the white teachers have been teaching me what I needed to know all along and I didn't even realize it? She was like, yeah, they're telling you this is what you want to say. Stop hiding it. Stop hiding it behind these tropes of, you know, If you're Black, you have to talk about your hair texture. If you're Black, you have to talk about colorism. If you're Black, you have to talk about this. You just talk and tell your own story. If there's multiple stories, there's nothing wrong with that. So these are the teachers that I had. This is Carrie, Carson Fox, who works in hair also as a medium. Shelly Spector, who is phenomenal. She's a found objects artist. Uh, Diane ended up introducing me to a bunch of celebrity collectors, other artists, and just meeting them and getting that chance to have one-on-one with them, which is pivotal. It really brought me to a place where, okay, I think I know where I'm going with this. So in the pictures, you see Halima Taha, which is the woman in the bottom left-hand corner. She literally wrote the book on Black art collecting. CCH Pounder, who's one of my collectors and a friend, she's an artist, actress. If you ever see NCIS New Orleans, that's her. Willis, Willie Cole, and Faith Ringgold, Sanford Biggers, they're all inspirations to me. Here's some more. This is my circle. These are my go-to artists. When you get to a certain point in your career, you get to go and actually be friends with the people who are in the same circle as you, which is still so surreal to me. I have here Alfred Conte, Charlie Palmer, Hebrew Brantley, Bisa Butler, phenomenal quilter, Delita Martin. All of these are my people, and they were the ones who were telling when I was telling them about my family farm. We have a family farm in Lynchburg. They said you need to really listen to Diane and all these people who keep telling you, which is a lesson you learn as an artist. Stop questioning what is being told to you. You can hear from 5 different people, but sometimes you have to listen to that 6 nobody person to really realize that they were telling you the same thing all along. And they all said, the wood is what's speaking to you. Why don't you work with that? So I started working with woodwork art the last spring of my grad school program. And this is the point where I'm starting to think, what am I going to work on for my thesis? And I loved the fences when I did them, but I felt that my painting skill was not to the level I wanted it to be at to really evoke the stories I wanted to tell. So I went back to looking at Wengichi's work, Romary Bearden, and Deborah Roberts' work, and looked at collage as a medium. And I found a formula to be able to adhere the collage paper onto the wood, but still be able to paint, still be able to add other medias to it, like metallics, and so forth. And these are the people who are helping me figure this out. This is Diane, the woman with the glasses. That's her. She's my mentor. She's like my big sis. The big dog in the middle is like my big older brother. He's really the one who introduced me to everybody. I like to call him the glitterati of the art world. That's Danny Simmons. He is Russell Simmons and Run DMC's older brother. He runs the Rush Philanthropic. He's really the one who got me all the other big steps I got along my career. He introduced me face to face with this guy, Whitfield Lovell. And Whitfield is really a great big brother too, where he's like, just don't step on my toes. That's his words, not mine. And look at what I'm doing. You're doing these fences. Do you always want them on the wall? Make them stand up. And that's where I started working. I looked at the family house I grew up and went to every summer. This is a real log cabin. It's my 3 times great grandmother's home. That's her in the bottom corner with my 3 times great grandfather. Every summer for at least from the age of 10 till I was at least 14 or 15 years old. My grandmother would take me down to this house and we would clean the house out uh, and prepare it for Labor Day weekend when the whole family would come down for a family reunion to spend there. And all that time, I'm listening to these stories from these old people about people that live there, all of our relatives, and I'm cleaning these photos, taking them down off these log cabin walls and these wooden walls. And I didn't realize it, but it was telling me how to work. And that's when this came about. This is the work that everyone knows me now for. Uh, it was the idea of meshing the stories and applying them to the wood. And once I got both together and listened to Whitfield, listened to Diane and the other people who were telling me to put the work as real fences, uh, it really kind of sang. It's like this sweet moment where you're like, I got it, I got it. These are some up close images from my thesis show. Uh, my thesis show ended up uh, getting written in the Philadelphia Inquirer. And then after that, my phone, my emails kind of blew up. Uh, and between the sales of the work and the opportunities that kind of fell from it, it really pushed me to do more work like it. Uh, People always ask where I get my fences from. There's actually a old fence company near me, and this is pretty much the sign. My husband is very skilled, so he'll go out there with his chainsaw, and I'll tell him, "I want the one all the way at the bottom, hun," and he'll lift that whole pile up, and he'll take the fence and cut them up and put them in the back of his old truck, and we'll bring them to my studio where I clean them up and prep them to be worked on. This is my studio. It's in an old high school. It's the chem lab of an old high school. And it's the perfect place for me to work because besides getting the art room at the old high school, I got the chem lab, which is pretty much the same materials I'm working with. Uh, this is actually an older picture. Now I have a large format printer in there. I have a saw table because sometimes I'm having to cut wood. Um, but it's like my creative space. I love going there. These are some of the places I've been able to have my work at since my grad show. The Color Girls Museum asked me to curate a room there. If you have never heard of it, definitely look it up. Fantastic location. The Petrucci Family Foundation, which has the third largest African American art collection in the United States. They purchased two of my pieces. I had a show at the Stockton University. Those are two television shows. One is a movie that my work has been in. And these are some of the accolades that he already mentioned. Um, it's just been a ride. This is a work was commissioned for the Weeksville Family Heritage site. It's a historic location in Brooklyn, and they commissioned a piece using photos from their actual archive, and it stands right in the lobby area. And this was another piece that they asked me to install for a later show there. This was part of the Pew Foundation nomination show. This was another commission. This is the only piece that I ever did with males in it. Usually I do women as the stars of my work. This piece is titled Brothers in the Mist, and it has my husband's image in it as a child. It has my stepfather. My father is right there in the front, right here. That's my dad. Here is my grandfather, and down here you can't see it really well, but that's an image of a young James Chaney. He was one of the 3 young men who was killed during the voter registration drive in Mississippi. And they kind of changed the whole civil rights movement because he and the other 2 men who were from the North, both were Jewish, all got murdered. And most people know him from that mugshot image of the 3 of them. But I met his sister, and she was very kind and let me use a picture of him when he was 7. So I put him in the work. And the piece that's on the back of it has my mother, my aunt, both my aunts, and my granddaughter and myself on it. These are some of the workshops I've been asked to do. And I currently was asked to do a mural for the Mural Arts program in Philadelphia. That's me the weekend the Time magazine hit the newsstands. And that was a recent show. And that's really about it. These are some other images from my work. The piece to your left is called Hey Black Child, and I love the wood on this one because it curved, and it's really hard to find old fence panels that are in one piece that curve like that. So I love the fact I was able to put kind of these Africola style Kool-Aid colors in it, and be able to highlight children for once. At one point, I went from just using gold paint to actual gold, copper, metallic foils in the work, which is what you see here in the piece next to it called Caretakers. And, I love wood that always has something wrong with it because it kind of reminds me of human beings. You know, we all have our little chinks in our armor. So this piece was missing well, the slat was there, but it was falling off. So I just pulled it off altogether, and I stained it further because it wasn't as gray as I usually like them to be. And that piece is called Rooted. And then the piece to your right is on birchwood. I started doing a lot of birchwood pieces, mainly because they're easier to ship. It's not as much chance of the slats losing their space, tending to swell or shrink in transportation. And that's it.
Fantastic. Such beautiful work, and thank you so much for sharing. We're going to open it up for questions here in a bit. I'll get it started. First of all, I'm really interested in what's kind of the process of making one of these pieces. Where are you sourcing your images from, and what's going into these pieces?
Well, the sourcing usually comes from different places. In the beginning, I was very methodical about finding them from. I was doing the back way of searching, and it took me a lot longer to find the images I wanted. So I would go to places like the National Archives, local universities, digital archives, library archives, the Library of Congress, the Smithsonian. The only problem with that is you're kind of like trying to find one image out of millions. So I figured out early on an easier way to do it is literally between Google and Pinterest. So what I'll do is I'll go on Pinterest and I'll put in, say if I want to work on a piece on Victorian era African American children, and I want to have that image in. I'll Google that, or I'll go on Pinterest and search it, find the image, then go back and read where they got that image from. Problem with Pinterest a lot of times is stuff from Tumblr, so it ends up being more work, but at least I have the image and I can go back to Google Images and try to find where the original image came from. So then I can say, can I use this image? Is this an image that is royalty free? Is it made before 1920? Uh, any image that you're sourcing, if it's between 1920 and 1930, you can use free. So that's a little FYI for artists. Any image that is made by a known artist that is after that, you cannot. You are supposed to get the art, the permission from the photographer. The trick, though, is for me, I still use them, but what I do is I change them so much you can't tell what they really are, how much of them is from the real artist, how much of them is from me. So there was kind of this unfounded rule that one of my art teachers said. She used to call it the 3-change rule. You want to change the media, you want to change the color, and you want to change the application. If you change that, generally it's changed so much that it now becomes your own image. So if I found, say, for example, if I was using the Mona Lisa, I might flip the Mona Lisa from viewing it from the right to the left. Then I'm going to change collage over her, different set of eyes, different set of lips, maybe change the color of the background or cut out, maybe I'll cut out her hairstyle and maybe put another hairstyle in. At that point, it's still Mona Lisa, but now it's Lavett Ballard's version of the Mona Lisa. So that's pretty much what I'm doing throughout. I did find out when I was doing the Rosa Parks Rosa Parks' work for the bus boycotters for the Time magazine. That really taught me a lot about national and international copyright laws. Uh, when you're doing an image, say if you're just doing an image of, I don't know, Audrey Hepburn, and you did an image of Audrey Hepburn and you sold it to, say, Joe Brown, and he has that piece, that's fine. You can do that. You can sell it and it's his, and you created it, whether you painted it, photographed it, whatever. But say Joe Brown is a major athlete or a celebrity and he has his home in Architectural Digest and he has your painting or your image huge right behind him, then it's a problem, because at that point it's now in a nationally recognized work. The person who created the actual photo, if they feel you have not done enough, say if that person now uses that for all their PR, your image is going to be there forever in perpetuity, which can be a problem because then you can get sued. So with time, I didn't worry about it because they supplied me most of the images I was able to use, which come from the Getty, which has Lord knows how many images in their database, but you usually pay for them or the use of them. Time works with Getty, so it was easy for me to do. There were some images I wanted to use that I could not because the photographer would not allow me to, or the family would not allow me to, and that's where I had to get a little bit more artistically decisive with my choices in that work.
Wonderful, amazing. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes.
Yeah. Annie?
I just wanted to point out how important it seems like mentorship was for you, and like finding people to really push you, and like finding a community within the arts. I think you've already kind of touched on it, but I'm slowly realizing how important that is, especially building connections for beyond undergrad. So what advice do you have for like networking and like getting your name out there and meeting people and just trying to make your mark, I guess?
Well, the most important thing I found, and maybe it's because I was a what they call alternative student. I was older when I went to undergrad. I was already in my 30s. And then I was in my 40s by the time I got to grad school. I learned early on that where most of the students that I was with were so busy about learning, getting their skills better. Okay. And that's important, yes. But that also comes with time. You know, you're not going to be the same artist you are today 10 years from now. So that comes with time. It was more important to me when they had an artist talk or a visiting artist that would come through to connect with that artist, find something that we have similar. And a lot of times I would be like, okay, here's my business card with my phone number. You know, next time you're in New York, next time you're in New Jersey, just give me a call. And if they were on social media, I would, kind of stalk them. Like, oh, it's so nice to see you. I love this new work of yours. And I would drop their name like, oh, this is really nice work, Kara. I'm loving this, and before you knew it, they thought that I was their friend. And then they were like, they go to my page, Lavett, I'm loving this new work. And I'm like, thank you, So uh, I wouldn't say stalk people, but it is helpful to we're artists, so we tend to be kind of introverts, and it's very difficult for us to step outside of being that. And in some instances in the art world, it's okay to be an introvert. If you're, say, a graphic designer and that's all you do is just you and your laptop or you and your computer, that makes sense. But if you're going to be a working exhibiting artist, you can't be an introvert when you're asked to talk in front of a group of people of 100 people. You can't. You have to push past that insecurity, that anxiety. So doing that early on in grad school and in undergrad kind of prepared me for where I'm at now. Uh, I also looked at a lot of art. I looked at a crap load of art. Like, if there was a little show in the middle of nowhere in my town, I would go to it just to look at the art. If there was the curator there, I'm going to connect with the curator even more so than the artist. Why? Because the curator is going to be deciding on work for future shows. I'm going to connect with the gallery owner because who knows if they're showing work that seems like it's similar to my type of work, that's someone I want to get to know. Even if it's just me showing up every once in a while to their events. Uh, all of that is about building your network, and building your network kind of leads to mentorship. I met Danny in the most unorthodox way possible. It was crazy. I was back in the beginnings of Facebook. Uh, I would be working on painting here in my home studio, and I'd be painting late at night, and I saw his name pop up on my feed one day, and he was showing he was in his studio painting, and it had to been like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. It was real late. So I commented on his feed, yeah, I'm up too, late night painting. And then he responded back in my messenger, what are you working on? And I sent him a picture of what I was working on. Then he commented later, the picture that I showed you guys in the beginning of my profile of me covered in paint. He said, you covered in paint. This look a hot mess. What were you thinking? And I was like, I don't know. And I wasn't being flirtatious because I am married, but I made it quite clear I was married. I said, well, my husband actually thought it was kind of funny. He was like, yeah, I bet he did. And I was like, oh, this old man just is after me, and I didn't even know who he was. I didn't even look at who he was. I just knew he was an artist. He worked late at night. I loved his artwork. And it got to the point where every night we would be commenting to each other, direct messaging back and forth on Facebook. And then I would comment to my husband, oh, yeah, Danny's working on this, or he's going here, or this. And my husband finally got getting a little jealous. One morning, he comes in the room, and I'm up here talking to Danny and cracking up. And he says, oh, you're talking to your friend Danny? And I said, yeah. And he was like, oh, let me see who this Danny is. And I was like, yeah, my friend Danny. See, this is Danny. That's Danny. That's Danny right there. And he goes and says, you do know who that is, right? And I was like, yeah, his name is Danny. That's my friend Danny, an artist. He was like, you ding, ding dong. That's Danny Simmons. Yes, I can read. His name says Danny Simmons. And he was like, I bet you if you go through his personal photos in that album, you'll see a picture of Run from Run DMC. I was like, why would I see a picture of Run from Run DMC in his pictures? And he was like, just do me a favor, look. And I looked, and sure enough, they had pictures of him, Russell, Kimberly Simmons, all his nieces. And I was like, oh my God. So I instantly emailed, Facebook Messenger back. I said, Danny, your brother's Russell Simmons? And it was a pause, like a real dramatic pause, like, yeah. Why didn't you tell me? And he said, I didn't think I had to. I was like, oh, okay. My husband's like, only you would be talking and friending up somebody who's super famous for months on end and not even know. But it worked because I took him at the face value of his talent. I wasn't concerned with who he was, who he knew, whatever. And he ended up introducing me to all these bigger named artists. He introduced me to Diane. He introduced me to Micheline Thomas. He introduced me to Samson Biggers, Carrie J. Marshall, all these big names who honestly, he gave quite a few of them their start. So it was just really, hold on a second. Oh, I dropped something. It was just really a great experience. And he's still one of my kids call him Uncle Danny. You know, they go to his house. Well, we haven't been there in a couple of months because of COVID, but he got his shots, we got our shots, so we'll probably be going to his house again. But he's just such, and he's written my application to Yaddo. He wrote my acceptance, my recommendation. He wrote my recommendation for the Pew Foundation nomination. No, he recommended me. He was my nominator. He got me into grad school. He wrote my recommendation for grad school. So he's been one of my best. I call him my big brother. He's like one of my best mentors. And he's also one of those mentors. When I was doing stuff like this, he's like, it's all right, but I don't like it. You need to do something else. You know, he's no hold back. Like, it's all right. Keep that in the house. Don't show that no more. So, you know, definitely get a mentor. Find someone that you feel the work is similar to yours, and um, be just get under them and keep in touch with them. Keep correspondence with them. Support each other. You know, and it really will help your career so much more.
Thank you for
Great.
that advice. That was
You're
awesome.
welcome.
Is there any more questions, anybody? Well, I've got another question. I know that like a lot of this, you've gotten like a lot of publicity recently, and I can only you. We were talking a little bit before this about how you've had a lot more time, you know, in your or you've had to be in your studio a lot more. I'm interested in how you sort of balance your life and your studio practice these days. Do you have any tips for that?
I don't. I really don't. It kind of right now in my career, it's kind of like, are you all in undergrad or grad? You're all in undergrad. Okay. Are you near thesis time or okay? So imagine this point right now where you're having to balance thesis, regular schoolwork, family, and maybe a job all the time. So, and that's pretty much my life. It is the thesis would be my regular art practice. Uh, Schoolwork is I teach. I teach at two universities, so I have to balance that. And then there is my family. And in all honesty, if there's an artist that says, "Oh yeah, I'm killing it, I'm doing it all," they're lying because at one point or another, something's going to fall through the cracks. unless you have an intern, which a lot of my friends do have, I'm working towards it. Things are going to fall through the cracks. You really can't. You're not. I mean, I have a cape, but sometimes the cape gets snagged every once in a while. So you kind of compartmentalize on a hierarchy of what's most important right now. I find that my studio practice is very much important because it's both a financial issue, because I have representation from a gallery, not just one, but two galleries. Because I have representation, it's not just about financial on my part, it's also other people who are looking at what I'm doing. So that makes it even more important. So it's not like, okay, it's not like I can step away and say, oh, I'm not doing this no more. This was just a hobby. I wanted to see if I did it. I did it. I'm done. I can't because other people are relying on what I produce to pay for their bread and butter. So uh, sometimes certain things fall to the wayside. I'm already thinking, okay, come this fall, I may not teach three classes, um, which already is pretty much the most teacher, unless you're full time. Uh, I'll probably end up only teaching two or maybe just one class in the fall, mainly because I have two huge shows coming up. I have UTA, and then I have Art Basel, well, not Art Basel, Art Miami during Art Week. I'll be there for that. So I have to make work for both of those events. So that's pretty much most of my summer. And then I have to prep, for Art Miami. So that's a lot. My kids are, thank God, are now older. So they're high school. One is a preteen. Well, he's a teen, but he's early teen. And then I have high school junior. So they are old enough where they're like moms and artists. Okay, big deal. You know, I'm still going through, depending on who they're trying to impress, how important it is to them that mom is an artist. If they're really trying to impress someone big time, they're like, my mom was on Time Magazine, and they'll get real cool points on that. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, my mom, she's an artist. She knows people. Oh well, they're not impressed at all. It's like it's funny to hear when I have teacher conferences. The first thing is not how my son is doing. I heard you're an artist. Wait, yeah. Is he still failing? It's like, okay, can we keep on track? So a lot of that is balance. It's a balance. It's really tough. Um, you learn, they don't teach you in art school ever how to do art administration, which I really have been a big proponent for at every school I've ever taught at. I was like, listen, I would love to teach either a workshop or a class, either credit or non-credit, on work artists in real life, because they don't tell you, okay, you can't just walk into a random gallery and pull out your phone and start showing them pictures. No, you cannot go to the Armory show and start handing out business cards to people and you're still in grad school, I mean, undergrad. You cannot go and submit to a show and not give them an inventory of your work and photograph your work before it goes out. It's certain things they don't teach you. They don't teach you the softwares that maybe you should know how to use to, inventory your work. They don't teach you how much important a name is to your work. I can't tell you how many times I have a student that creates a wonderful work of art. What's the title of it? Untitled. Okay. What's the title of that one? Untitled 2. You didn't even spend time coming up with a name. That's problematic, So they don't tell you those things, and it sucks as a working artist because then you get out there and you're like, okay, now what am I supposed to do? Out of my whole grad class, we had 13 students in my graduating class. I am one of only two that is a full-time working artist. Everyone else, I think two of them work at Starbucks. One works at anthropology. She does fabulous work doing the sets and so forth for anthropology across the United States. Another one works in contracting and restoration. They're working, yeah, but they spent $60,000, $70,000 on a degree they are not using. So yeah, just it's just frustrating.
Well, good deal. Well, we're almost coming to a close. Do you have anything you'd like to add here at the end? Plug anything? Any plugs?
Uh, I have, like I said, I'm working on Miami. Um, I'm working on the UTA, which is the Universal Talent Agency run by Arthur Lewis. He is a huge collector, and the UTA I'm very excited about because that's in September. I'll get my chance to finally meet Beyonce because I'm going to be working with the Wearable Art Foundation. That show, each of the people in my studio, not my studio, in my gallery, uh, all the people that she represents are expected to do 5 works of art. And out of the 5 works of art, they're going to be shipping them all to this group exhibit at the UTA. But the UTA, this group exhibit, works with the Wearable Art Foundation that is run by Tina Knowles. And they're going to be auctioning at least one piece off at that big gala. So I'll get to go to the gala. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to be going back to Yano this summer, and I'll be working on paper. I'm always looking at new ways to do the same thing. I tend to only work on wood, but wood is very difficult and expensive when it gets very large to ship. So I'm looking to do wood paper, making paper out of chips of wood, pieces of pulp, and collaging on top of that. So I'm very excited about working on that. And have a show coming up at UNC next year, and another show at the African American Museum in Philadelphia, and also at the York Museum next year. So next year I got a lot of big shows. So I'm going to be working most of this year on all that work. So busy, 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 busy.
Sounds like it. Well, I'm excited to see all those exhibitions, and I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed looking at your work and researching your work this week. I think it's amazing. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
And like I said, just make sure you keep your nose to the pulse of what's going on. If you don't already have an art seed or art forum, what they call it, subscription. Just go on there, read the articles, make sure you know what's going on in the art world. There's also other great magazines like Culture Type, Hyperlegitic, out there, Sugarcane Magazine. Read those magazines because they're telling you who's coming up, who's growing, and also be open to different medias when you're building your visual voice, because a lot of artists going out there, the problem that they have is they start off painting, and then they say, okay, I've got this, I've been doing this for a while. A while could only be a year, and then next thing you know, now they're sculpting. The problem is for a collector, they don't know you're the same artist unless they look at the name. You want them to know who you are no matter what, no matter which medium you flip-flop to. And if you're flip-flopping mediums, you want to make sure it's a very similar medium to what you were working with. That's what we mean when we say visual voice. So make sure you build your visual voice now. This is the time. Don't worry about the pressure of making it big right now. This is the time to play, learn, get what you want to do it well, and keep it up. So
Good deal. Well, thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Thanks for everybody that joined us on the live stream. Coming up, we have, let me pull out my little list. Let's see. April 11th, we have Vincent Uribe from Level 3 that's going to come and speak to us. April 18th, we have Emmanuel Aguilar. And then April 25th, we have Holly Cahill. Thank you once again, Lavett, for joining us. Yeah. And
Thank you.
I'll see you